Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how to put God consciousness first, what it really means. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I got an email from one of our subscribers who said, Tom, I'm just feeling overwhelmed. There's so many things that I desire. There's so many things that I want. There's so many changes that I want to make in my life that I just don't know where to begin. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm beginning to think it's just too much. I was wondering if you could provide some guidance on that. Well, guys, we're going to talk about this today and more. The first thing I want to say, and I've said this before, that you cannot confuse or overwhelm God. You cannot overwhelm infinity, right? If you can desire it, you can have it. If you can demand it, God can supply it. It doesn't matter how many things you desire or what you want. Nothing is too big or too small or too much or too little. God has it handled. We're talking about infinity here, right? We're talking about all that is. So it's not about modifying your desires. It's not about desiring less. You can't desire less if you even wanted to. It's about lining up or occupying that state, that God consciousness, moving and rising to that God consciousness where all your desires are already a manifested reality in that dimensionally larger world. That's all it ever is. Right? Remember, ye are gods, all children of the Most High, right? It's going to that secret place that Jesus talked about. Let's unpack this a little bit more. So remember, wherever and whatever you put your attention on, create your life experience and becomes your reality. If your attention is on the 3D world or on the manifestations, that it's too much, right? When you're looking from a three-dimensional thinking, when you're looking from the three-dimensional world, everything feels like too much. You're looking at lack, you're looking at limitation, you're looking at restrictions and obstacles. That's why it feels like it's too much, right? But if you put your attention on that Christ consciousness within, that God consciousness, there are no limits. Now you're wholly unlimited. Do you hear this, guys? Right? Your awareness of light, that's what creates reality. When you put your attention on the outer world, the conditions and manifestations, you're focused on limitation, lack, and changing effects. Right? You're looking at things that are limitations, that do look like lack. Right? And those things change when your attention changes. So you want to move within. You want to move to that God consciousness. This is what Jesus said in part of his teachings on the Sermon on the Mount. Do not store up yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves cannot break in and steal. In other words, take your attention off the 3D world, off the manifestations in the outer world, right? And put it on where the real treasure is. The real treasure is your consciousness. Your real treasure is having consciousness of your desires. Because when you're there and when your desires are in your consciousness, then they must manifest. And nothing can harm them. It doesn't matter how long that they last in the 3D world or what anybody can do to them. You can recreate them as long as they're created in consciousness. Do you hear this? That's what Jesus was getting at there. And then he goes on to say, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your treasure is where your heart is. In other words, in that deeper subconscious, right? In that higher consciousness of who you are. There, nobody can touch it, right? Treasures on earth, in other words, treasures in the 3D world, right? 3D manifestations are temporary 3D manifestations and changing conditions. There's no security there. When you're focused on 3D world, on 3D manifestations, there's never security. There's never calmness. There's never peace because you're always wanting and needing something. Right? But if you know that it already exists in consciousness and you move there, then you don't want for anything. You don't need for anything. It's already there. It's already a manifestation. And then it must manifest in the 3D world. But if you're focused here in the temporary, fleeting manifestations of the 3D world, you'll always feel overwhelmed. You'll always feel a state of lack, a state of needing, right? Remember, the treasures on earth our thoughts or consciousness objectified. So if you put your focus on those treasures are fleeting, right? That's where moth and rust can get at them, right? The treasures in heaven are the treasures in your higher consciousness, in your divine mind, right? With righteous thinking, right? What is right? And again, the scripture always talks about righteousness. That's talking about right thinking, thinking with your divine mind, thinking with that God consciousness, right? It's a spiritual understanding. That's what you want. That's what you want to manifest as a spiritual understanding. Then you have everything is added on to you, right? Divine demand equals divine supply. So if you can demand it, if you can demand it within consciousness, demand it from that higher state of consciousness, it must be provided to you, right? It will manifest in the 3D world, right? Put God in consciousness first and you want for nothing, right? All the endless details are in God's hands, right? If you keep your focus on you get overwhelmed in the 3D world because you think that you've got to take care of all those details. You've got to figure out how, when, and where. And oh my God, it's too many. My God, it's too many details, right? There's no fear, there's no stress, there's no anxiety, there's no feeling of unworthiness. More importantly, right? We begin to dumb down our desires, to modify our desires because we feel we're not worthy of it, that it's impossible. There's no unworthiness. When you put God first, when you put your divinity first, when you put the God consciousness, that Christ consciousness first, then everything will be added on to you. That's the promise, right? The eye of the lamp, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then, if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. I love this part in Scripture, right? The eye is your spiritual awareness or your perception, right? Where you're putting your attention or your light, right? If your eye is focused within, on that God conscious within, on the manifestations within or your desires within, then now your eye is clear and your whole body will be full of light. That's what they're saying here. When you put your higher self and your consciousness first, your body and life will be full of light, right? Full of light, full of all the desires, everything that you want. In fact, the paradox is you start wanting less of material desires as you rise higher in consciousness. That is the paradox. It doesn't become as important. It's a sure thing. You take it for granted. You know it. It's a knowing, right? There's no need to worry about where, when, or how, or multiple desires, right? Your multiple desires will manifest. You are set free from the changing world of outer manifestation, right? And the paradox is everything falls into place effortlessly, right? Everything falls into place. That's the paradox, right? There's no need to worry about where, when, and how, right? Your multiple desires will manifest. You are set free from the changing world of outer manifestations, right? The paradox is everything falls into place effortlessly. That's amazing, right? It all falls on your lap. Jesus gave us the metaphysical and spiritual key to creating our own reality by putting God and consciousness first. He did this through the Sermon on the Mount, one of the most powerful sections in Scripture, right? And remember, what's so important here is what Jesus is saying here, and what Jesus is always saying is that you are spirit. Spirit's your nature. Remember, even science says it, 99.99999% spirit. Right? You're 99.9999% nothingness, right? Energy, right? Yet, you are worried, fearful, and anxious, and overwhelmed with the 0.0001% of outer manifestations. Hear that, right? We're mostly spirit, right? But we're concerned with this 0.0001% of outer manifestations. That's where we put all our attention, right? Jesus said it here, right? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one or love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other, right? You cannot serve God and mammon or wealth at the same time, right? That's what God's saying. Remember, that's what creates resistance, right? You've got 1 foot in the spiritual world, 1 foot in the physical world, and all your focus is on the physical manifestations, right? You've got to move to the place where your manifestations is. It creates resistance because you're serving two masters. And I've heard many of you say that, oh, I wish that I never learned this thing about that I'm the creator of my own reality, because now nothing's coming out right. Right? Before, when I didn't know, before when I was unconscious, it felt like I at least was getting some of my things right. Well, guys, that's not really the answer. It was because you weren't serving two masters, right? But you were unconsciously creating. You had no creative control. Now you're still trying to maintain some of that control in the physical 3D world. You've got to give up that control to your higher you, to your inner being, and let your inner being carry it. Then you're going to be able to create deliberately whatever you can be, do, or have whatever your heart desires. Now it's not going to be a game of chance, a game of luck, a game of some good luck and some bad luck, right? It's going to be all you creating your own reality. That's what they're saying here. So, manifesting and realizing all your heart's desires cannot be understood on the 3D plane. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to understand it and analyze it. I even heard from one of you this morning that's trying to analyze it from the 3D perspective, saying, Tom, it just sounds contrary to me. It sounds like it is contrary to what we believe, right? It's not intuitive to what we normally believe or what we've been brought up to believe, right? It's contra all limiting beliefs. Right? That's why you can't be understood by the 3D reality. That's why you feel overwhelmed. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to control it. You're trying to manipulate it from the 3D perspective. Right? And that only causes resistance and stress and overwhelmment. Right? You can only perceive limitation and lack. You must rise above the conditions and problems of the 3D plane. That's where all your desires are, right? And then in Matthew 6:6, but you, when you pray, go into your inner room, close the door, pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. I want to read this again. This is very powerful, what Jesus is saying here. Jesus here gives us the formula that Neville Goddard talks about and all the spiritual greats talk about, that you create it within your imagination, within consciousness, and then it's manifested in the outer world. He gives it right here. But you, when you pray, right? When you rise in consciousness, when you imagine your wish fulfilled, when you move into the conviction that it's already yours, when you're in that feeling place that you already have everything that you want, you're in gratitude, go into your inner room, right? Go into your inner room, go within your imagination, close the door to the 3D world. Stop looking at that, stop staring at the 3D world, stop wondering when it's coming, right? And pray to your Father. Remember that who is in secret. It's that greater subconscious, right? Your Father is that greater subconscious. That's the God consciousness, the Christ consciousness. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you, right? That's how you do it. You don't manifest anything by staring at it, by trying to wrestle it to the ground in the 3D world. You might be able to create something on a very low level in the 3D world, but you're not creating from that inner state. Right? You're not bringing miracles. Miracles happen from within, right? From within, without, right? Jesus shares the metaphysical teaching of imagining your wish fulfilled. Imagine the grace, goodness, and divine supply within you. So he gives us the secret to go within. Imagine the grace, the goodness, and the divine supply within you. It's an infinite supply within you. Just move within, right? Jesus gave us the formula right here. And so, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This is one of the most important verses, right? It's a beatitude that Jesus talks about in the Sermon on the Mount, that in the Bible. Jesus gives us the key to overcoming all limitations, right? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Let's break this down, because this, in just a few words, really gives you the meaning of creating your reality, right? The metaphysical tools to be, do, or have whatever your heart desires. Earth means 3D manifestations or outer expressions of your inner world. That's what Jesus is talking about here. Inherit the earth. You'll inherit all manifestations, right? You'll manifest in everything. All causation's mental of your earthly outer experience, right? Inherit the earth means to have absolute dominion and power over your outer world. That's what Jesus is talking about. Imagine that. Inherit the earth. It can't get any clearer than that. You have absolute dominion when you create your inner world, right? But yet, we're still getting overwhelmed. We're still shifting our focus to the 3D world, the manifestations, right? Become the master of your life. This is big. Meek is not weak, right? Blessed are the meek, right? A lot misinterpret this. It's on the contrary. It means put God first. Have faith in God, right? Give it to God, right? Surrender it to God, that God within, to your higher being, to your inner being within, right? Make your state of mind, your consciousness most important. Allow allow the will of God to guide you. It's allowing God to guide you, because that will of God is your higher will. It's your inner being. It's that higher you, that higher self, right? That's what we're talking about. That's what Jesus is talking about. He's not saying be weak and give up. He's saying give in or give it up to your higher self or to God consciousness. That's big. So another one here is, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled or satisfied, right? It says satisfied in my version of the Bible, and also it says filled in the King James Version, right? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. So with the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus reinforces the great metaphysical spiritual truth that the outer world is an expression of your inner thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Hear this. With these Beatitudes, with these verses in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is reinforcing that the great metaphysical teachings, the truth that the outer world is an expression of your inner thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, right? Righteousness also always means right thinking, right thoughts, right states of consciousness. When you have that, then when you thirst for that, when you're hungry for that right state of consciousness and for that higher state, hear this, everything shall be filled. All your wishes shall be fulfilled. Everything will be satisfied, right? Righteousness means right thinking or being conscious of the greater love and grace of God. That's what righteousness means. That's what they mean in the Bible. Your power over your thoughts and your state of consciousness. That's what righteousness means. It's having that power over your inner state, right? As within, so without. You cannot think one thing and express another. That's what Jesus is saying there, right? Right thinking, righteous thinking, right? You cannot think one thing and then manifest something different. It's not going to happen. If you're thinking overwhelmment, you can only experience or produce or manifest overwhelmment. You hear this, guys, right? Give your attention to God and your higher self rather than to the limitations and the effects of the 3D world. It can't get clearer than that. Let's unpack it a little bit more. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, right? What is Jesus saying here? This is powerful. It means to realize your true spiritual nature, that heaven is within you. That's the pure in heart. Heart always means that greater subconscious, right? That connection to God. The pure in heart shall see God. What does it mean to see God? It means to recognize God within you, right? Recognizing where there's no limitations, no restrictions, no time, no space. You can't see God by putting all your attention on the outer manifestations, by putting all your attention on the overwhelmment, right, of the 3D world, right? Because remember, there is no overwhelmment where God is. God doesn't know overwhelming. God doesn't know limitation. God doesn't know illness, right? God doesn't know struggle, doesn't know strife, right? It's all within you. God only knows abundance, only knows prosperity, only knows goodness, only knows unlimitedness, only knows supply, right? Right? So try this. So try this. So you're saying, and you're saying that you have a lot of desires. You're feeling overwhelmed. Well, write those down, right? Write all your desires, and then after you write them down, put them away. That's the first thing I want you to do. And then secondly, and I wanted to, for in him we live and we move and have our being. I just wanted to repeat that, guys. It's within that God consciousness that all your desires are. So the first thing I want you to do is write them down. Once you write them down, you're gonna do a do nothing meditation. This is the 0 point meditation. We've talked about this before, but I want to call it the do nothing. After you do this, after you write them down, do nothing, right? Write them down, put them away, and then go into this meditation. It's the do nothing meditation. In silence and calm within, all resistance melts, right? Problems fade, obstacles dissolve. Go within, right? Get into that alpha state. Close your eyes, right? Let your thoughts just be, right? No, you no longer have to focus on your desires. You already wrote your desires down and you put them away. They're there. God knows they're there. Move into that 0 point state, right? Breathe in and out. Close your eyes. In a few minutes, you'll be in that totally relaxed alpha state, right? Feeling good is not a goal to be achieved. It's your natural state. Remember this. Don't do this to feel good, right? Do this to just reach that natural state where feeling good is already there. Hear this. A lot of times we get into these meditations or even wanting our desires to feel good. Instead, just rise up. Go within to where feeling good is already there. It's already your natural state. There's nothing to achieve. It's not something to achieve, right? Give up trying to figure things out, right? Give up needing, wanting, or not wanting anything, right? Rest in the state of not knowing. Observe what happens when nothing happens. Hear this. This is the do nothing meditation, right? Same idea. You can count backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and breathe in and out and close your eyes, but do nothing. I want you just to observe what happens when nothing happens. What happens when nothing happens? Everything happens. Right? This is where your dreams get manifested, right? And another thing I like to do, another version of this meditation, is I've talked about that when we debunked linear time, we talked about that time is not like a river that goes in one direction from the past, the present, and into the future. That it's like a lake, right, where everything is happening at the same time. Everything is happening now. The lake of now, right? And you're in the middle of that lake. You're in the present moment, right? And so toss pebbles of beliefs and desires into that lake, into that present moment. When you do, those ripple out immediately, right? And you're affecting the past, present, and the future when you do that. So imagine yourself in the middle of a very glass-like pristine lake, right? And imagine that you have some pebbles and you're just tossing the pebbles in. And as you toss the pebble, you're thinking about one of your desires, or you're thinking about one of your higher beliefs, and you're tossing it in there. As you do that, you're affecting the past, present, and the future. Why? Because it's all happening right now. Those are ripples. Those ripples represent past events. Those ripples represent future events, all happening right now as they ripple out. You're changing everything as you sit quietly in the middle of now. Try that as a meditation as well, right? Vision yourself in the middle of that glass lake, throwing the pebbles of your beliefs and desires into the now moment. And as they ripple out, imagining that it's happening right now. As these ripples ripple out, you're changing the past, you're changing the present, and you're changing the future, right? This changes everything, right? This really is how to put God or consciousness or Christ consciousness first. That's what it really means. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful Studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. Hit us up on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful, on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Karen, our website at tomkaren.com or besomethingwonderful.com, or write me anytime at info@besomethingwonderful.com. I always love to hear from you. Until next time, this is Tom. A great love. See you soon.